ended up hanging out in the parking lot playing catch with a frisbee. While we were out there, we noticed that there was a homeless lady sitting right in the front of the entrance. And every time people went into the mall, they'd either check their watches or pull out their phones. Anything in order to avoid making eye contact with this homeless lady. So we were kind of troubled by that, and then they just threw a bad throw, and the frisbee landed near her, so we ended up striking a conversation. Eventually, the question came up: why are you homeless? She responded to that question with a question of her own. She asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. I told her I wanted to be a doctor. In response, she pulled out a medical degree. I want you to think about that. Imagine having a medical degree and being homeless. What could have happened? That's what we ended up asking her. Turns out that right before she was placed into residency, she had to come back down to Atlanta to help out her brother who was involved with some gang violence, and she wasn't able to get that spot in residency. In a few weeks, medical school bills began piling up, and suddenly, she was homeless. My brother and I were stunned. We wanted to go out and hear the stories of other homeless people that we had been avoiding by checking the time or looking at our phones. So we set up a backpack-a-thon where we went down to Atlanta with a bunch of backpacks and just talked to the homeless people there. The stories we heard stunned us. We were so surprised by how close people were, just one step away from homelessness. If their car broke down on their way to work, or if they had to go pick their sons up early or daughters early from school because they were sick, suddenly you're not able to go to your job and you're out with them. That night, my brother and I came back and we were playing ping pong in our basement, and we decided that we wanted to do something about this. Suddenly, ideas for what we could do started bouncing just as quickly as the balls that we were playing with. Today, we have a nonprofit called Working Together for Change, and it has 3 pillars that are aimed at ending homelessness.
Our first pillar is called the immersion pillar. Now, our aim for the immersion pillar was really to just raise awareness. When my brother and I started out, we had a misconception about who the average homeless person was. And it's a misconception that a lot of us in society have. It's the idea that the average homeless person must be middle-aged, like he's a middle-aged man, maybe drunk, maybe doing drugs, sleeping on a park bench. But most of all, he's lazy, he's uneducated, and he's unambitious. But that is as far away from reality as you can possibly imagine. The truth of the matter is the average homeless person in the United States is under the age of 18. And the fastest growing demographic is under the age of 9. They're just kids like you or me, out on the street. Now these are the kind of facts that shocked my brother and I into action. And we began by raising awareness. We created programs for kids of all ages to get involved. For elementary school kids, we started a pen pal program between them and homeless kids in housing centers. For middle school students, we brought them down to these centers to give them a chance to play and interact with these kids. To give them a chance to show that everybody, no matter your socioeconomic status, can have a chance having fun, whether it's just playing football or throwing a frisbee. For high school students, we expanded our backpack-a-thon program, and for college students, we gave them an experience, a 3-day, 2-night experience, to live the life of a homeless person, on campus, without a roof over their heads. To give them a chance to show what kind of situation many homeless people are in, to having to maintain personal commitments, like family or friendships, but also juggling schoolwork, all the while without a roof over their head. It's just an extraordinarily difficult situation.
But raising awareness wasn't enough. We needed to actually make an impact. So we decided to host medical camps. Funny story that's not entirely honest. The entire medical camp pillar was kind of an accident. We were at one of our Fun Friday events, and I was playing basketball with my brother, and one of the program coordinators came up to me and was like, "Wow, this is great. Do you guys also do medical camps?" I was lined up for a 3-point shot, so I was slightly concentrated on something else. So I went, "Of course we do. This is one of the things we like to do." My brother next to me was not nearly as concentrated on basketball, looked at me and said, "Aditya, we don't have doctors, we don't have a location to host medical camps, we don't even have enough volunteers for that." But we had decided to go for it. We decided to commit to ourselves. So we set the date for our first medical camp a month from that Fun Friday, without any of the foundations laid down. Our first medical camp was a lot like juggling. First we went to the doctors, and we told them that we had a great location lined up, a lot of homeless people ready for their services, and a lot of volunteers that were really looking forward to working with a lot of doctors. That was the first ball in the air. Then we went to a lot of different community locations. And we were like, hey, we have a lot of doctors that want to serve, a lot of homeless people that really need your help, and a lot of student volunteers that would love to come out. This would be a great event for your location. Second ball in the air. Then we went to the homeless shelters and told them that we had a lot of doctors, a lot of volunteers, and a really cool location to host a medical camp that they should totally promote with their homeless population. Third ball in the air. Lastly, we went to our friends. We confessed. We told them what we had done, and we told them that there was no way we could do this without volunteers. There's no way that my brother and I could pull off this entire event without their help. So we went to them. Fourth ball in the air. Now, juggling was going on relatively well, up until 9 a.m. the day of the medical camp. That's when I received a phone call. The bus that was supposed to ferry the homeless people to the location had completely broken down. That juggling, all the balls had just fallen onto the ground. But what can you do when you're juggling? All you can do is pick them back up and start juggling again. So my brother and I juggled a few phones as we made phone calls to every adult we knew, trying to convince them to use their minivans to ferry these homeless people to the location. The first hour or so of the medical camp, there were no homeless people. There's just a bunch of doctors like, oh, when are they coming? But at the end of the event, no one left feeling dissatisfied. People left either feeling like they had volunteered to help hundreds of homeless people get medical attention they wouldn't have gotten. Doctors left feeling valued for what they did and excited that they could do more to care for the people that they'd been working with. And we left feeling that our medical camp had gone a lot better than we anticipated at 9 a.m. that morning. We were really happy with it. We figured out what worked and we decided to repeat it. Today we host medical camps around every 4 months. But
we didn't want to just help these people. We wanted to go back to our original goal of ending homelessness. And that's where our third pillar comes in, social entrepreneurship. Now, we knew that in order to really end homelessness, we couldn't just treat the symptoms of the disease. We had to really help the people at risk of becoming homeless, specifically the youth. So, over the last 2 years, we fundraised over $25,000 in order to provide these kids through entrepreneurship programs. Give these kids life skills and skill sets they can rely on. Skill sets they can build a career on, regardless of whether or not they're able to complete school.
That didn't mean that we were going to ignore all the adults that were already homeless, though. To work with them, we started a venture with United Way, where we tried to set up resume camps and other programs that would reintegrate these homeless people back into the job market. A few months after that, we started thinking a bit bigger.
We started looking at international efforts where we could help out on. So twice now, we've gone to Tijuana, Mexico, and built a house from the ground up. Before we were there, there was no house. Now, with just a week's worth of time from our volunteers, we've helped these families. It may have only taken a week for us, but it's going to help house these families for years to come. And we recognize that it's not feasible for us to travel around the globe and build houses for everyone in need. But working together for change represents the idea that we have to do anything and everything we can to help those in need.
This hasn't been entirely easy. Running Working Together for Change has meant a lot of sleepless nights, passing up on sleepovers, and not being able to hang out with friends. Every hurdle that we've run across seems to be replaced with an even bigger one. But the cool thing is that when my brother and I started this nonprofit, when we met that homeless lady outside of the mall, there was a fire lit in us. None of what we did felt like work. And so, whatever the problem was, regardless of, at first it was talking to adults, from then it was raising money, or even getting a 501c3 status from the IRS. None of it really felt like too much work because we had found something we loved, and consequently everything we did felt like a necessary extension of what we'd set out to do. If I could leave you with one parting message, it's this.
1 out of every 45 kids in Atlanta will be homeless tonight. And no one person can stop this epidemic. But working together, 44 of us can help the 45th. Thank you.
Thank you.